3 bullets ripped through the restaurant window. Glass shattered everywhere. Diners screamed and dropped to the floor, but in the chaos, one man remained seated, calmly sipping his coffee as if nothing had happened. That man was Vincent The Shark Moretti, and this wasn't his first brush with death. In fact, it was his 7th assassination attempt in 3 years. How does someone become so feared and so hunted that their life turns into a constant game of survival? And how does a former high school football star and city-building inspector transform into one of Chicago's most notorious crime bosses? Vincent Moretti's story is one of those rare tales that seems too incredible to be true. It's a story about power, betrayal, and the thin line between legitimate business and criminal enterprise. It's about a man who built an empire while maintaining the appearance of an ordinary citizen, a father, a husband, someone who blended perfectly into the background of everyday American life. For nearly 2 decades, Moretti worked as a municipal building inspector. He lived in a modest house in a working-class Chicago neighborhood. He drove a sensible car. He attended PTA meetings for his kids. His neighbors described him as polite and ordinary. But behind this carefully constructed facade lurked the leader of the Lakeside crew, one of Chicago's most powerful criminal organizations, with fingers in everything from nightclub security to drug distribution. The contrast between Vincent's public persona and his alleged criminal activities was so dramatic that many refused to believe they were the same person. How could this unassuming city employee be responsible for controlling vast portions of Chicago's underworld? How could someone who inspected buildings for code violations during the day be orchestrating complex criminal operations at night? If this story made you think, laugh, or feel something deep down, smash that like button. As we dive into Moretti's story, we'll explore how a promising athlete became entangled in Chicago's criminal underworld, how he survived numerous assassination attempts, and how his empire began to crumble when his own family turned against him. This is the story of a man who built his power through cunning rather than brute force, who maintained a double life for decades, and whose legacy continues to cast a shadow over Chicago's streets. Vincent Moretti's early life gave no indication of the path he would eventually take. Born in 1970 to Italian-American parents in Chicago's West Side, Vincent showed promise as an athlete from an early age. His high school football coaches praised his discipline, focus, and leadership on the field. Some even believed he had the potential for a college scholarship. Vince was special, says former teammate Daniel Martinez. He wasn't just physically strong, he was smart. He could read the field better than anyone. He always seemed 3 steps ahead of everyone else. This ability to stay steps ahead of others would become Moretti's trademark in later years, though in very different circumstances. His talent for anticipating moves and planning strategically would serve him well in the criminal world, where one wrong step could mean prison or death. After high school, Vincent's promising football career was cut short by a knee injury. He took a job with the city of Chicago as a building inspector, a position he would hold for over 20 years. On paper, he was just another civil servant, doing the unglamorous work of checking construction sites and issuing permits. He was thorough, professional, recalls a retired colleague who asked to remain anonymous. Nothing about him screamed gang leader. He wore khakis and button-down shirts, drove a Honda. He packed a lunch every day. His desk had pictures of his kids. This ordinary image was crucial to Vincent's success. While other criminal figures flaunted their wealth with flashy cars and expensive clothes, Moretti understood the power of invisibility. He knew that the most dangerous predator was the one you never see coming, like a shark gliding beneath the surface, hence his eventual nickname. The Moretti brothers, Vincent, Dominic, and Anthony, grew up in a neighborhood where crime was a fact of life. While Vincent showed athletic promise, his older brothers, Dominic and Anthony, were already making names for themselves in Chicago's criminal circles by the time Vincent was in high school. Dominic, the oldest, had a reputation for violence. He'd served time for assault and was feared for his quick temper. Anthony, the middle brother, was smoother. He had a head for numbers and handled the financial side of their early operations. Together, the three brothers formed the core of what would eventually become the Lakeside Crew, a criminal organization that would grow to control significant portions of Chicago's nightlife and drug trade. Their early operations were small: corner drug sales, protection rackets, small-time gambling operations. But even then, Vincent showed the strategic thinking that would eventually propel him to leadership. The Moretti brothers weren't like other criminals, explains retired Chicago police detective James Wilson. Most gangs at that time were chaotic, disorganized. The Morettis ran their operation like a business. Vincent especially. He was patient, methodical. He didn't rush into things. Drop a comment telling us where you're from. We're curious to know. This methodical approach paid off when several rival gang leaders were taken out of commission, some through arrests, others through targeted hits. The resulting power vacuum created opportunities for someone with the right combination of intelligence and nerve. Vincent Moretti stepped into that void. Unlike his more volatile brother Dominic, Vincent rarely lost his cool. He understood the importance of maintaining legitimate businesses as fronts for illegal activities. Under his guidance, the Lakeside Crew expanded into property ownership, security companies, and even construction, all perfect covers for money laundering and other criminal enterprises. By the early 2000s, Vincent had formed a crucial alliance with Tommy Reynolds, a real estate developer with connections throughout Chicago's business community. On the surface, Reynolds was a successful businessman who had made millions developing properties in up-and-coming neighborhoods. He drove luxury cars, wore expensive suits, and moved comfortably among Chicago's elite. Behind the scenes, however, rumors swirled about the true nature of his relationship with Vincent Moretti. Some claimed that Reynolds' real estate empire was built with Lakeside Crew money, that his developments were fronts for large-scale drug operations or illegal gambling dens. Others suggested that Reynolds helped Moretti launder money through property deals, transforming dirty cash into legitimate-looking assets. One case that drew police attention involved a warehouse in the industrial district that was allegedly connected to Moretti. When police raided the location, they discovered a massive methamphetamine production facility. Vincent claimed he was merely the property owner and had no knowledge of his tenants' activities, a defense that worked due to lack of direct evidence connecting him to the operation. And hey, if you love God, your parents, soldiers, or pets, please hit the subscribe button. Thanks, this raid raised questions among law enforcement and the media. How could a city employee on a modest salary afford to own multiple properties worth millions of dollars. Vincent's explanation was simple. He had a knack for spotting undervalued real estate and had been investing wisely for years. Without evidence to disprove his claims, authorities could do little but continue their investigation. By the mid-2000s, the Lakeside crew had become one of Chicago's most feared criminal organizations. Their name, derived from their original territory near Lake Michigan, was whispered with fear in neighborhoods across the city. Under Vincent's leadership, the crew had evolved from street-level drug dealing to more sophisticated operations. One of their most profitable ventures involved nightclub security. As Chicago's nightlife scene boomed, club owners faced problems with fights, drug use, and other security issues. Vincent and Tommy offered a solution: trained security teams that would keep the peace and prevent problems before they started. What many club owners didn't realize was that this security came with strings attached. Clubs under Lakeside protection became distribution points for the crew's drug operations. Bouncers weren't just there to check IDs and break up fights. They controlled who could sell drugs inside and collected percentages from dealers allowed to operate on the premises. It was brilliant, really, says a former nightclub manager who spoke on condition of anonymity. Club owners thought they were buying peace of mind. What they were actually doing was giving Vincent control of their establishments. If you wanted to run a successful club in certain areas, you had to go through the Lakeside crew. This arrangement proved incredibly profitable. The security contracts provided legitimate income that could be declared on tax forms, while the drug sales generated enormous off-the-books profits. By controlling both aspects, Vincent created a system where legal and illegal operations reinforced each other. Not everyone was happy with the Lakeside crew's growing power. Nathan "Nate" Washington was another major player in Chicago's nightclub scene. Like Vincent and Tommy, he provided security for clubs and controlled drug distribution within them. For years, an uneasy peace existed between Washington and the Morettis, with each respecting the other's territory. That peace shattered in 2012, when Washington was killed in a drive-by shooting outside one of his clubs. The hit was professional. Witnesses described multiple shooters in a black SUV that pulled up alongside Washington's car as he was leaving. The killers fired more than 20 rounds before speeding away. Speculation immediately focused on Vincent Moretti and Tommy Reynolds. With Washington gone, his security contracts and drug distribution network were up for grabs. Within months, many of Washington's former clubs had signed contracts with Lakeside security companies. However, no direct evidence linked either man to the murder. The case eventually went cold, joining the long list of unsolved gang-related killings in Chicago. Washington's death marked a turning point. With their main competitor eliminated, the Lakeside crew's influence expanded dramatically. This expansion came with unexpected complications. Dominic Moretti, who had spent several years in prison for assault, was released in 2013. He expected to pick up where he had left off, taking a leadership role in the family business. He bought several taxi medallions, hoping to establish himself in the transportation industry, and anticipated rejoining the security and drug operations. Vincent, however, had built the Lakeside crew into a sophisticated enterprise during his brother's absence. He worried that Dominic's volatile nature and old-school approach would jeopardize the delicate balance between legitimate business and criminal activity that he had worked so hard to establish. Dominic was a throwback, explains a former associate. He believed in ruling through fear, making examples of people. Vincent had moved beyond that. He understood that violence draws attention, and attention is bad for business. The tension between the brothers escalated throughout 2014 and 2015. They fought over territory, distribution networks, and leadership roles. Family members tried to mediate, but the rift only grew wider. By early 2016, the situation had become untenable, leading to a formal meeting where Vincent officially separated from his brother. This family split had violent consequences. Allegations emerged that Dominic was behind several murders around Chicago, targeting individuals loyal to Vincent. Meanwhile, Vincent fought to maintain control of his operations while dealing with the threat posed by his own brother. The conflict between the Moretti brothers created vulnerabilities that rivals were quick to exploit. Beginning in 2017, Vincent became the target of multiple assassination attempts. Each one made headlines. Shots fired at alleged gang leader. The Shark survives hail of bullets. Suspected crime boss escapes assassination. One of the most brazen attacks occurred at Chicago O'Hare International Airport. Vincent was walking through the parking garage when two men opened fire. Despite the public location and heavy security presence, the attackers managed to fire multiple rounds before fleeing. Vincent suffered a shoulder wound but survived. Another close call in an increasingly dangerous game. Theories abounded about who wanted Vincent dead. Some pointed to Marcus Jackson, leader of the West Side Boys gang, who had been looking to expand into the lucrative nightclub security business. Others suggested Edward Eddie Kozlov, known as the Chemist, for his involvement in the steroid trade, had ordered the hit after one of his associates was found murdered. A third theory implicated corrupt police officers who feared Vincent might reveal information about their illegal activities. None of these theories was ever proven, leaving the public and law enforcement speculating about the true source of the threats against Vincent The Shark Moretti. The attempts on Vincent's life continued with alarming frequency. Public places became battlegrounds as his enemies grew more desperate to eliminate him. One particularly shocking incident occurred at a popular steakhouse chain restaurant known for its family-friendly atmosphere. Vincent was having lunch when two gunmen entered and opened fire. He was hit in the arm, but returned fire, killing one of the attackers while the other fled. Families with children screamed and took cover under tables as bullets flew across the restaurant. The idea that such violence could erupt in a family establishment sent shockwaves through the community. Despite being seriously injured, Vincent recovered and continued to attend high-profile events, including funerals of associates connected to Chicago's underworld. He began traveling in bulletproof vehicles, sometimes with a security detail, a far cry from the unassuming city employee who had once blended into the background. The attacks continued through 2020. In December of that year, while attending a funeral at Oakwood Cemetery, Vincent was again targeted. A dark blue sedan drove past the mourners, and multiple shots were fired. Miraculously, no one was injured as attendees dived behind gravestones and monuments for cover. The cemetery attack highlighted a disturbing pattern. Vincent's enemies were willing to strike anywhere, at any time, regardless of who else might be harmed in the process. The violence was escalating, and the collateral damage was growing. By 2023, the danger had spread to Vincent's family. His son, Michael, became a target, presumably as a way to get to Vincent himself. In one incident, Michael was driving his father's bulletproof SUV when attackers opened fire. The bullets bounced harmlessly off the reinforced vehicle. A second attempt proved more dangerous. Michael was in the Gold Coast neighborhood, stepping out of his car on Lakeshore Drive, when gunmen opened fire from a passing vehicle. Though wounded, Michael managed to run into a nearby hotel lobby where security called for help. He survived, but the message was clear. No one connected to Vincent Moretti was safe. As Michael recovered in the hospital, Vincent faced the harsh reality that his lifestyle had put his family in danger. The Moretti name, once a source of power and respect in certain circles, had become a deadly liability. The saga of Tommy Reynolds, Vincent's longtime associate, took its own tragic turn in November 2024. Tommy was shopping at Lakeside Mall when he was gunned down in broad daylight. The brazen nature of the killing shocked, even hardened Chicago residents. Reynolds was shot multiple times at close range in front of dozens of witnesses. The attack raised troubling questions. Tommy normally traveled with bodyguards and took extensive security precautions. How had his killers known where he would be? How had they managed to get so close? The precision of the hit suggested inside information, perhaps even a betrayal by someone close to Tommy or Vincent. Vincent attended Tommy's funeral, visibly emotional as he spoke about his friend. "Tommy always told me to choose the right path," he said during the service. He believed in legitimate business, in building things that last. Those who knew of the allegations connecting both men to numerous crimes might have found these words ironic, but they revealed the complex relationships that existed within Chicago's criminal hierarchy. The death of Tommy Reynolds created what law enforcement calls a power vacuum, a sudden absence of leadership that triggers competition and conflict. Many wondered if this would allow Vincent to consolidate his power, or if it would make him more vulnerable to rivals seeking to eliminate the last obstacle to their ambitions. Some speculated that Tommy's murder was meant as a warning to Vincent, a message saying, "You're next." Others believed it was part of a larger power play, perhaps connected to a deal gone wrong or an alliance that had soured. As with so many events in Chicago's underworld, the truth remained elusive. Throughout his career, Vincent Moretti has been a frequent visitor to Chicago's courtrooms. He has faced charges ranging from murder to drug trafficking, money laundering to racketeering. Each time, he has posted bail, hired top-tier defense attorneys, and maintained his innocence. A disturbing pattern has emerged in these cases. Key witnesses often disappear, change their statements, or end up dead before they can testify. In one high-profile case involving the murder of Eddie the Chemist Kozloff, 3 witnesses recanted their testimony just days before the trial was set to begin. The charges against Vincent were dropped due to insufficient evidence. This pattern raises serious questions about the integrity of the justice system when dealing with powerful criminal figures. Are these coincidences in a city with high crime rates, or evidence of something more sinister? The frequency with which cases against Vincent collapse has led to speculation about witness intimidation, jury tampering, and even corruption within law enforcement. The system isn't equipped to handle someone like Moretti, argues former prosecutor Sarah Mitchell. He has resources, connections, and he knows how to use them. When witnesses won't talk and evidence disappears, building a case becomes nearly impossible. Adding to these concerns are allegations that corrupt police officers have aided Vincent's operations. There have been troubling reports about stolen police firearms finding their way into the hands of gangs, including those involved in attempts on Vincent's life. Some suggest these weapons were deliberately provided by officers on Vincent's payroll. Others believe they were sold by corrupt officers to whoever would pay the highest price. Either way, the implication is clear. The line between those who enforce the law and those who break it has become dangerously blurred in Chicago. This entanglement makes it even more difficult to bring figures like Vincent Moretti to justice. If there's a lesson to be learned from Vincent the Shark Moretti's story, it might be that no one, no matter how powerful, how wealthy, or how connected, is truly invulnerable. Each bullet that strikes a car window or restaurant wall serves as a reminder that fortunes can change in an instant. Allies can become enemies, friends can betray you, and even the most carefully constructed empire can crumble. Tommy Reynolds' death in 2024 underscores this reality. Despite his wealth, his connections, and his security measures, he died on the floor of a shopping mall, surrounded by stunned onlookers. His fate suggests that Vincent's days may be numbered as well, that no matter how many assassination attempts he survives, his luck will eventually run out. Vincent Moretti's Chicago is a city of shadows, where nothing is quite what it seems. Behind legitimate businesses lurk illegal operations. Behind public service careers hide criminal empires. Behind expressions of grief at funerals lie calculations about power and territory. This shadowy reality extends to the city's institutions. The allegations of police corruption suggest that even those sworn to protect the public may be compromised. When the guardians become part of the problem, citizens are left feeling vulnerable, unsure of whom they can trust. The most troubling aspect of Vincent's story may be how it reflects broader issues in American society. The vast gap between his public persona and his alleged criminal activities mirrors the disconnect between how institutions present themselves and how they actually function. His ability to maintain both worlds simultaneously, respectable city employee by day, feared crime boss by night, speaks to how easily appearances can be manipulated. As Vincent the Shark Moretti continues to navigate the dangerous waters of Chicago's underworld, his future remains uncertain. Will he finally face justice for his alleged crimes? Will he fall victim to one of the many enemies who want him dead? Or will he somehow find a way to continue his double life, balancing on the knife edge between legitimacy and criminality? What is certain is that the consequences of his actions have rippled throughout Chicago, affecting countless lives. From families caught in crossfire at restaurants, to witnesses who vanished before testifying, from club owners paying for protection, to communities devastated by drug trafficking. The true cost of Vincent Moretti's rise to power cannot be measured simply in dollars or territory controlled. His story serves as a dark reflection of the American dream, a twisted tale of ambition, opportunism, and the corrupting influence of power. It reminds us that behind every headline about gang violence or organized crime, there are complex human stories filled with choices, consequences, and the shadows that all of us carry within. So what happens now? Subscribe to learn more about how Chicago's most feared crime boss continues to evade both bullets and justice, and the real cost of the empire he built.